We are live. Welcome to the Blitz. Free plays for week 6 in college football coming right up. If you are watching us live here on the Wage Talk YouTube channel, start firing off those questions right now, because any game you want to talk about, we'll be happy to do so. All you got to do, comment down below, and we'll answer. I'll let you know right now, we are definitely talking about Vanderbilt at Alabama, Iowa State at Cincinnati, Texas at Florida, Texas Tech at Houston, and Miami of Florida at Florida State. Here to help me, as always, is the pen himself, Ralph Michaels, of course, here. Now, usually sitting in the third chair is Ross Benjamin. Unfortunately, Ross a little bit under the weather this week. Get well soon, buddy. But never fear, we have a lot of NIL money. You may not know that, but we do have a lot of NIL money here at the Blitz. So we hit the portal, and we brought in one of the best transfers you could buy, the great Steve Merril, joining the program. Steve, it's been a very long time since we've talked. How are you doing?
Brian, are you flipping the image? Why do you get your W on the non-logo side? Mine's on the right. Mine's on the right side. Is yours on the left?
Mine's on the left, right here.
Wow,
yes.
they did our shirts different. Ralph, don't feel bad. When you eventually get yours, you might get a W on both crests.
Let me get out my marker and at least put a W on it, because I feel left out. So thank you.
The Blitz, sponsored by Wager Talk TV and the Nike. So there we go. No, hey, look, part of that NIL, you might not understand how this NIL money works, but I'm supposed to eventually see some of that. But I do appreciate the offer.
Check is in the mail, Steve.
Check is definitely in the mail.
Yeah,
I'm giving my current address.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're still living in Wisconsin, right? It's on its way. Okay, anyway, guys, let's talk about the SEC here. Let's get it going. Ralph, I always try to shamelessly impress you with trends every week, and you being the trend guy. And I got one for you here for this Vanderbilt-Alabama game. Talked about it on the midweek edition of the Power 5. Lower-ranked teams in top 25 matchups this year. 12-3 straight up, 13-2 against the spread. I was chatting with a buddy during the week, and we were hypothesizing, Ralph, that perhaps the fact that lower-ranked teams are having success in these kind of matchups is because the AP doesn't really know what they're doing anymore, and that the poll is pretty bad. Your thoughts on that assessment and your thoughts on the trend in general that lower-ranked teams have been having success in top 25 matchups? That obviously applies to Vandy this week down in Tuscaloosa.
Again, we know the AP poll is a joke, and you can find advantages. Like you said, if you're an undefeated team, you end up there. When you lose, you drop down a few. It doesn't matter who you've played. So there is something to be said about that. But, again, I am on Bama here. There's no question. You can look at Vanderbilt, and they're a great story. I did look up teams that are an away dog of 4 or more with 0 losses from game 5 on. So, you don't know if a team is a real undefeated team or not until you played a few conference games. So we're going to learn about, Vandy quite a bit. But those teams with 0 losses as an away dog of 4 or more from game 5 and later, 16-28, 36.4%. And let's remember, revenge is such an overused term in college football. It is legitimate revenge when you are a top 10 team and you lose as a 3-touchdown favorite, to Vanderbilt last year. And teams off a loss as a conference away favorite, top 10 team, 17-7 when they're a home favorite in that revenge role, 73%. So I look at it, but I look at Vandy in this. Diego Pavia he's a game winner. I mean, he's exciting. He is a guy who's leading the team in passing and in rushing. He has 494 rush yards, 6.1 yards per carry. But here's my concern. Vandy's D's, they faced FBS opponents ranked 135, 115, 68, and 46. Bama is 19. Pass defenses, Pavia has faced number 125, number 81, number 78, number 36. Bama is number 2. Bama runs this and runs them out the door, covers this double-digit spread.
All right, Ralph coming in hot there. He likes Bama, says that trend maybe takes a step back. I will say this, Steve. Diego Pavia, he has been great as an underdog. He's been a game changer for this Vanderbilt program. I believe he has 5 outright upsets since becoming the quarterback of the Commodores. Yes, 5. He's 9-2 ATS as a dog since coming to Nashville, including a perfect 5-0 on the road. They are on the road here, but to Ralph's point, I remember it was only a few weeks ago we were here on the program. It was before their first game, before they lost to Florida State. We were all talking up Alabama as a national championship contender. Then we throw that ticket away when they lose to Florida State. Now all of a sudden, I'll be honest with you, I got Alabama power rated as the second best team in the country. How do you look at this game?
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to say we'll learn a lot more about Bama. I did a video for the Georgia-Bama game midweek, and then I said I'd like to know that Florida State-Virginia result because we'll see if Florida State's for real, and then that transitive property says was Alabama for real because, Bama giving up 31 points to Florida State didn't look very good considering the Seminoles scored 16 or less in each of their final 10 games against FBS opponents last year. But then after the next couple of weeks, and Florida State scored 180 points in 3 games, it looked pretty good. I do think Bama's for real. This is obviously a focus spot for them. Normally, it would not be a focus spot. It would be a terrible spot after the big Georgia game and then playing as a double-digit favorite against Vandy. But they will not overlook Vanderbilt this week. Always rely on my power ratings. My 10,000-game simulation favors Alabama by 14 in this one. Current line is 10.5, so I do lean Bama. Would like it more at 10 or less. I'd say there's a 3 to 4% chance they win by exactly 10 points. It's a key number. I actually rate Vanderbilt as the better offense right now in my power ratings, but Bama the better defense. And I think that'll be the difference in this game when all is said and done. Good friend of mine, Daniel Owens, I coach with him. He's a Virginia Tech alum. He goes to all the games. He was at the Vandy game a few weeks ago. He saw Virginia Tech blew that 10-0 lead and then get outscored by like 34 points in a row. Vanderbilt is a legit offense. They're explosive. Over might be worth a look in this game for that reason as well. And if Bama does come a little bit flat, I think that often shows more on the defensive side of the football. So maybe hedge a little bit. If you like Alabama minus 10.5, as I do, hedge it a little bit, maybe with the over 55.5 as well.
Ralph, I saw you waving the pen. You have something to add there?
I do. Just to quantify the Vanderbilt schedule with the defenses I gave you, Alabama has played the number 5 schedule. Vanderbilt has played the number 107 schedule. So take their season-to-date stats with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and Steve mentioned something about this usually being how this could easily be a letdown spot for Bama coming off the Georgia win. But guys, keep in mind what happened when they played Vanderbilt last year. They lost to Vanderbilt.
Correct.
So they're not going to take Vanderbilt lightly here. And that game was in Nashville last year. And you talk about value. When these teams met last year, Alabama closed minus 23.5 on the road. Now, as Steve mentioned, they're minus 10.5 at home. It's interesting, Steve, that you mentioned liking Alabama by 2 touchdowns in this game because the number opened 13.5. Vandy's taking money down to the current price at 10.5. I would, the value is kind of on. While the trend favors Vandy, the value does seem to be on Bama. By the way, how many visits here? 11 visits. Vandy has lost in Tuscaloosa. They have not scored more than 10 points in any of the last 5, but they do have Pavia this time, which should be a little different. All right, guys, keep those questions coming. I see several already coming in. Let's go to Maryland and Washington. Jacob Hefner. He wants to know, why are the bookmakers disrespecting Maryland? Forget taking the points. Give me the Terps straight up at home against Washington. Ralph, I'll say this. Washington coming off a game against Ohio State where they probably played better than the final score indicated. There were some penalties that I thought shouldn't have gone against them that did. They for more than a half, they were in that game with Ohio State. They took a lot of money. Washington did early in the week against the Buckeyes. Maryland is interesting because they usually fall flat on their face when the conference schedule starts. What do you think here about this game, Maryland at Washington?
Well, the reason the bookmakers, as he puts it, are disrespecting Maryland. Let's see. They played FAU, Northern Illinois, Townsend, and Wisconsin. So I'll tell you this. I do like looking at Sagarin's strength of schedule. The reason being, he adds in the FBS and the FCS teams. So you get a legitimate strength of schedule. And this may be the lowest number on the board. You can't quote me on this, but there are 136 FBS teams. They have Maryland as the number 176th schedule. So that means at least 40 FCS teams have played a stronger schedule than Maryland. And still, they're only number 55 at plus 68 yards per game. Washington has played 110 better spots, number 64 schedule. They are number 21 in yards per game diff. They're plus 174.5 yards per game, and they're plus 2.41 yards per play. That is number 17 in the country. Maryland also misleading. They're plus 7 turnovers. That's one of the highest numbers. So when you're going through your schedule and you're putting up stats and you win the turnover battle, again, 6 of those came against FAU. But you look at the Wisconsin game, they had a 30-yard edge. They only rushed for 61 yards and 2.7 yards per carry. Against Northern Illinois, they only rushed for 86 yards and 3.1 yards per carry. And this Washington defense is legit. Yes, Ohio State scored 357 on them. I mean, put up 357, but that was basically, the Ohio State average. So they did a fine job. I think the disrespect for Maryland is legit. I like the Huskies.
Okay. Steve, what do you think? Washington certainly got a lot of respect last week against Ohio State and could not cash in, obviously. But I'm with Rob. I think Maryland's going to lose this game. They're not. I think whether or not I want to lay the points with Washington, a different story. But I don't think Maryland's winning here.
It's a terrible scheduling spot, in my opinion. I mean, they're traveling cross country. Ralph might have this. When's the last time they've ever played in Maryland, if ever? I would venture to guess these teams have never played, at least in Chapel Park, not Chapel Hill. What's it?
College Park.
College Park. I grew up in Northern Virginia, and I've been away for 20 years. I couldn't remember the name. I've been to basketball games at College Park. You got to park like 2 miles from the stadium. I can't imagine the Huskies have ever played at Maryland. So this is a weird setup. And then you're coming off that game. Yes, your season's not over because you lose one time, but it's still a spotlight game. You only score 6 points, and that's a home game. And now traveling cross country looks like a terrible setup. And then there is line value, I think. My 10,000 simulation has Washington winning by 3 points on average. I do also rate Maryland as the stronger defensive team in this game. Washington the better offense, but the bad schedule spot. It'd be interesting to see if we get 7 or more. It's 6.5 across the board right here on Thursday afternoon. But if you check Bet Online, Bookmaker, and those are the sharper books, I get that. They're at 6.5 minus 15. I would wait. You might get a +7 with Maryland by kickoff on Saturday afternoon. I would definitely like the Terps at that point.
Okay. Steve says to wait a little bit. Ralph, you're waving the
I am going to give backup Steve with 1 point. Last year, the first year in the Big Ten, they went to Rutgers. They put up 521 yards, but they lost 21-18. They went to Indiana. They lost 31-17. And they went to Iowa, half the trip of what Maryland is, and they lost 40-16. So those 3 Central and East Coast games on the road last year, ugly.
Yeah, that's been a big talking point in the Big Ten, obviously, and other conferences since at the ACC since expansion, where you have these really, really long road trips. Stay tuned, by the way.
Do you guys know what time the game is? I don't think a West Coast gets hurt by a night
3:30 Eastern.
Oh,
3:30 Eastern, so it's not as bad. Yeah, it's not.
The
yeah.
noon games, I clearly think you look to fade. The night games, those kids are used to playing at night, so
Yeah, stay tuned, by the way. My free play at the end of the show. Of course, I'll give out free plays at the end of the show. My free play will be on another team. I'll be fading a team making a long cross-country trip, so stay tuned for that. All right, we had earlier some comments coming in. Commander-in-Chief series starts here. Adam, one of our top commenters, one of our top contributors here on the show each and every week. Adam, thank you for tuning in again. Navy Air Force. He notes the totals sitting at 51.5, 52, depending on the book. Defense is that bad this year? Is what he wants to know. Obviously, the trend is always to bet the under in these service academy games. Steve, what do you think here? It is a little peculiar to see a total this high when Air Force is playing Navy.
Yeah, I love that Ralph's on with us right now because Ralph knows I ask him each year when I do my Army-Navy video for the updated numbers, and I've got them somewhere here on the computer, Ralph. You could probably pull them up. Like Brian said, the under's been a pure play, and what I love about Ralph's charts is, you can look back over the last 20 years and see the over-unders. And we used to get 20, 15 years ago totals in the low 50s, and it just were easy unders. And now we've getting totals down in the 30s. And they're still going under for the most part. And for those that are new viewers, those that are new to college football handicapping, the reason we say the under is a blind play in the service academy games is because Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Marines, if they had a football team, would all run the triple option, because they have to do more with less. They have smaller, undersized linemen. And when you can't go head-to-head with the team, you have to do something gimmicky, and they still run the triple option. And when you're running the ball nonstop, keeps the clock moving. That's part of it. You also don't get as many big plays. You're not getting the quick scores, the 70-yard touchdown passes. But the main reason it works with the service academies playing each other is because the defenses are more used to stopping the offenses because they see the option in practice. And it's a trend that's been well over 70, almost 80% at times over the past couple decades, just blindly playing the under. And Air Force, Navy, Army, Navy, Army, Air Force, however you want to mix it. When they match up, it's under or pass. I have been passing in recent years because the lines have been inflated. This one is not the case. 52, 52 and a half. And by the way, I'm looking at the odds live stream right now, 1:15 Eastern live Thursday on Wager Talk TV. And that total is lighting up. It's jumping around from 52, 52 and a half. At 51 is the key number. About a 3% chance a game lands exactly on 51. Under a pass for me in this one, unless we're missing something. I don't think the teams are going to start airing it out all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to step on Ralph's toes here, Ralph. I'll send it to you next, but it is since 2005. I've got unders in these Service Academy games at 46, 12, and 2. Whew. So you've made a lot of money if you can bet the unders in those games. Again, 46, 12, and 2. But to the commenter's point, Air Force's defense has been bad this year. They're 4-0 to the over coming into this game. So
yeah, Brian, real quick on that. I'm looking at the numbers now. The last 3 games, they've given up 287, 310, 457 passing yards. You know, it's like, are we too worried about that in this game? So that's another reason you really have to dig in deeper. Yeah.
Ralph, your thoughts on this one?
Again, I looked at, Steve, numbers that were Academy games with 47 or higher.
Yeah.
6 and 23, so 70, 80%, 79% to the under. So we haven't seen many, but it's simple for me. Again, I am not going to bet an over in it. I don't care how good the offenses look, you know. So it's under a lean, but I am worried about Air Force, what they've given up lately. And we also see Air Force has been sacked 6 times. I mean, that's massive. That's 9.2%. They've thrown the ball only 65 times. They've been sacked 6 times. That's almost 1 out of every 10 times you go back. Navy, 1 sack, you know, on 45 passes. But I just look at the rush games. Navy, on offense, rushing 6.5 yards per carry. On defense, 3.0. Air Force, 5.1 and 4.8. So we have a 5.1 Air Force offense against a 3.0 defense, edge Navy. And we have a 6.5 offense versus a 4.8 defense, edge Navy. Again, rare to lay double digits in this kind of Service Academy, but I do like Navy and would lean under.
Okay, there we go. Remember, Navy obviously still alive. They're in the American. Obviously, the American has that prize still dangling of the G5 playoff spot there as well. I mean, this is obviously not a conference game, but still, you don't want to drop anything if you are a G5 team. Michigan State, Nebraska. Let's talk about this here in Big Ten, then we'll get back to our rundown proper. Adam likes the over, 49, but can't decide on the side, 11.5, 12.5. Maybe we want to help him here. I like Nebraska in this game. Look, we know they struggle in close games, but this is a game where obviously the odds makers aren't expecting it. They're expecting a double-digit win. I think Nebraska is clearly the better team. I would side with the Cornhuskers. Steve, how about you?
Yeah, we'll start off with my simulation. I've got Nebraska on average winning by 16.5 points. I've got them as the better offense and defensive team. The defensive edge is their biggest edge in this game. And you point out, you know, a spot in which they probably have some motivation, Brian, to win by margin here. And then as we saw Oregon do against Michigan State this season, it is possible to do. So this Michigan State team is a lot weaker than recent additions. They did get the cover last week by losing by just 14 points against USC. Otherwise, they've been a fade team. Nebraska or pass for me, and I do think we get some line value.
Ralph?
Thanks for bringing that up, Steve. I was on USC last week, and they put up 337 yards, but I think 60 came on that touchdown pass with 2 minutes to go to get him that backdoor cover. Again, they allowed Boston College 457 yards. They allowed USC 523 yards. Now they're playing another road game. And, you know, we've had so much hype with Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola, but I think it's legit now. 76% with 11-1 ratio, but I do have to preface against the number 129 schedule. But they are number 6 in yards per game diff. And while they've played a weak schedule, I still like to quantify how well they've done by giving you their rank compared to what those opponents average in the other game. So on offense, they are number 19 in the country, averaging 133 yards more than their opponents normally allow. And on defense, they're top 10. They're number 9, holding those foes to 165 yards per game under their average. By the way, Michigan State number 79 and number 59 on offense and defense. I do like Nebraska. I do believe the hype this year because I am a big Matt Rule fan. If you look at his progressions from Temple, from season 1 to season 2 to season 3, same thing at Baylor, from season 1 to season 2 to season 3. We are in season 3 of Matt Rule. I am a Cornhuskers fan.
Okay, there you go. Well, some love for Nebraska. Adam says, glad I asked. Did not expect a consensus there. Let's go back to our rundown, guys, because we've got some questions coming in on games that we knew we would be talking about here. Guys, any other games that you're thinking of, hey, we want your guys' thoughts on it, feel free to keep firing away. We'll get to them. Johnny, we'll get to your question on tonight's game. Sam Houston State and New Mexico State. College football really taking a backseat to the Major League Baseball playoffs in the NFL tonight. But that's okay. It's a game, and somebody's going to cash there. But let's talk Texas and Florida. What do you say? Because we had a number of questions on that one. Colin says, do we just take the under in Texas versus Florida? DJ Lagway is more injured than people know. I'll say that. Florida's defensive line, we know it's banged up. Anyone who follows me, has followed me for any length of time, knows that it's going to take every ounce of restraint in my body to not want to bet Florida in this game. I think that they're a lot better than that record. They deserved a better fate against both LSU and Miami, but you do have to wonder, Steve, about what's going on up here in the brain. Are they starting to get mentally checked out? Is the Billy Napier tenure in Gainesville at 14 minutes and 59 seconds, if you will. Arch Manning, though, has not looked good. So to the commenter's point, the under, it seems logical. It seems like a logical bet at face value.
It's interesting about Arch Manning. You know, I was thinking this. I even said it to some people when the season began as I'm watching that Ohio State game in week 1. I was like, it's amazing that someone who's considered like the best quarterback in the country coming in is willing to sit 2.5 years, to actually get some playing time. And I did have the passing idea that maybe he's not as good as everybody thinks is why he's staying there and he's getting paid while he's doing it. Starting to think that might be the case. Maybe he's not a superstar. So we'll see. But then again, I'm not trusting Florida. I used the Virginia Tech reference earlier. And once again, my good friend Daniel Owens, he went to the NC State game last week and he told me 9.5, 10, all these guys were opting out. They've quit on the season. Well, what happened is that the guys didn't play and they won outright as a dog because the guys that wanted to play were in the lineup. You got the interim coach there. So my point is I'm not trusting Florida yet. I do think, Brian, you're going to get your chance to play Florida here at some point this season. But as you know, I love to say, don't try to catch a falling knife. And the Gators right now might be that falling knife. They are getting some extra line value, but you really got to handicap this game a little bit differently and read between the lines and, are they going to show up and ready to play? With that said, my simulation favors Texas by just 3 points. Simulation doesn't do a really good job of factoring in the intangibles, such as if players are going to play hard or not, with the coach on maybe the way out. But it's Florida or pass for me based on line value, but I just don't know if I want to catch that falling knife quite yet.
Yeah, both teams coming off buys. That's worth noting. And, something that we can quantify is this. And this, again, Ralph, would lead to an idea of playing the under. Texas yards per play, number 1 defense in the country. Florida's offense yards per play, number 118. So it may be tough with an injured DJ Lagway for the Gators. I mean, I think we would all agree, the three of us, everyone in the comment section, that, it's going to be tough for the Gators to move the ball and score in this game.
Well, Florida has played the number 2 toughest schedule. So, you look at their stats, they're number 64 at plus 44 yards per game, despite being 1-3. Why? Well, let's see. Has something to do with turning the ball over at USF -1, -4 turnovers in the 5 interception game at LSU, back-to-back road games, then having to go to Miami, putting up 141 yards. It doesn't matter how much I like Florida. It's just a team I'm not going to back, but I have no interest in backing Texas. I did take a look, of course, we have one of the biggest games in the SEC on deck, Red River rivalry, next week. So I looked at what Texas has done prior to Oklahoma. They actually had covered 3 straight games. Last year, though, the game before Oklahoma, they were a 38.5-point favorite against Mississippi State. They only won by 22, 35-10. But I did go look at a system as well. If you're a top 10 team playing an unranked team with a top 10 team on deck, this surprised the heck out of me. Since 2008, 243 and 172. That is 59% against the spread. So those people that say, oh, there's no way I can back Texas because they're going to be looking ahead to playing a top 10 team opponent, that has not historically been the case. Those teams have performed well. Obviously, if you're a top-ranked team this late in the season, you're a well-coached team and you are focused. So I expected some negative look-ahead numbers, found exactly the opposite of what I thought we'd see.
That's always interesting when that happens. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, Ralph, I love that because back in like the early to mid 90s when I started almost 30 years ago, and we didn't have the database capabilities we have now, I did this by hand almost. I did an NBA back test on that, and I was blown away as well that teams normally played pretty well when they had a big game on deck. And there again, it's tough to quantify ahead of time. I love how you use the ranking. That's a very quantifiable thing because you can say, is the team ranked? Is next week's team ranked as of now? But that held up in the NBA 30-some years ago when I first tested it. And my point is, in any sports, I don't use the look-ahead angle much in handicapping. I use the letdown angle a lot more. And I've talked about that here with Washington. They're off a tough loss. And by the way, for new viewers, I think letdowns happen more after tough losses than big wins. Everyone always talks about, celebrating the big upset win. It can happen if you overlook a team, but it also energizes you, especially 19, 20-year-old kids, whereas you score only 6 points in a huge home game last week and now travel cross-country to Maryland, like we were talking about Washington. Those are the letdown spots that worry me more. But I love that back test, Ralph, because I think it makes a lot of sense. And here's the reason it makes sense. They don't look ahead because they might not win next week. They got to get the win now because they know next week is not a winnable game. So I think that's another reason that angle makes a lot of sense.
All right. That is Texas, Florida for you there. We're going to get to Houston hosting Texas Tech in just a minute, but about halfway through the program. So what do you say? Three of us will let you know what we've got going on. All of us have got going on this weekend over at wagertalk.com. It is another big weekend of action. I will let you all guys, before I let these guys talk about what they have, I'll let you guys know I have a very rare 5% max bet going on Saturday. Do not do these very often. My last 5% play was week 2 of the NFL season, and it saw the Atlanta Falcons plus 3.5. They did not need that plus 3.5 as they destroyed the Minnesota Vikings 22-6. So this is our we went 3-0 last year with 5% college football plays. Did lose our first one this year, but very, very confident. This is my strongest college football play this season so far. So WT.buzz/BP. Go and get it right now. Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. First of all, thank you for having me on. It was my understanding I'd be on with Ross Benjamin, so a little disappointed. No, I'm just kidding. No, filling in for Ross today. I do appreciate it. It's a joke. I do appreciate being on a fun show, covering some great in-depth analysis here. And it's getting me primed also, by the way, to do my top 25 videos, some other standalone videos here for college football. Those will be up here this Thursday evening. Also, NFL Fade the Public will be up a little bit earlier this week. We're going to try that out to get it to everybody in advance. Over 56,000 views the last 2 Sundays on the Fade the Public video, and Fade the Public has been very profitable so far this season in the NFL. Speaking of pro football, I've got 2 advanced plays up now, also a bonus free NFL play. I loaded a few early this week because I really wanted to get in front of some of these lines, and there is still line value in all these games, and of course a ton of college football best bets for this weekend. The Weekend Warrior Pass is a great way to do it, and Ralph pointed this out on a show the other day that if you buy it in advance, you don't have to wait till Saturday to buy the $49 Weekend Warrior Special. Buy it now. You'll get those 2 advanced NFL plays, which I have locked and loaded. You'll get my college football as I start posting them on Thursday and Friday. Weekend Warrior Pass, as you see on your screen, $49 gets you every college and pro football best bet I release. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday if I have something, a little bonus there as well for just $49. One day is $39. Why not get everything for $49 that's available right now, along with that daily free play? Steve Merril, wagertalk.com.
Yes, absolutely. The Weekend Warrior Pass. And not only can you take advantage of that with Steve, you can take advantage of that with myself or the man in the middle there on your screen, Mr. Ralph Michaels. Ralph, what do you got going on here? No, you don't.
Do not buy my Weekend Warrior, guys.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't do it.
I have a college football 5%, which are 9-1, but that is Friday. So for me, you do want the 3-day all access to get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because then for just $20 more, you are getting that college football 5%. So a rare instance where I'm telling you not to buy it from me. College football, number 2 since the start of 2024, 14-7 this year, 67%. College football 5%, 9-1. College football and NFL combined the last 2 years, number 2 in the country. 4% best bets in All of football, 26-8, 77%. I will have a strong 4% teaser. It might even be a 5%. I'm not quite sure yet. NFL teasers, 25-6, 81%. And NFL teasers rated 4% or 5%, 9-1, as well as 16-2, 89%. Ross, hopefully you're watching. A couple people are asking Cody. I just saw Cody asked about you. Ross has been ill, under the weather, and I can tell you this. I want to give Ross a shout out. There's a lot of people in this industry that would just keep throwing crap up if they're sick just to get a play up and try to get some sales. Ross just says, listen, I don't want to force plays. I'm not 100% thinking clearly. I'm just going to pass for a few days. So I do admire that of him, and that's why he's part of Wager Talk. And, the group of handicappers we have are so responsible towards our viewers and our followers. I think that's really what sets us apart.
Yes, like we said at the outset, get better soon, Ross. We know we miss you, and obviously very happy that Steve was able to step in and do the show here. All right, let's get back to the games, guys. The games that the people want to know about. Houston and Texas Tech was asked about earlier in the show. I'm going to let all of you know, if you've been following, some of you have been following along, you may already know this. I am invested in both of these teams. Actually, if you caught the preseason version of the Power 5, you know that I said to bet Houston over 6.5 wins. I feel very good about that bet right now. Another bet that I made more recently was Texas Tech to win the Big 12. I think they are head and shoulders better than the rest of this conference, and that is why they are laying double digits on the road to this Houston team. Steve, what do you think? I don't want to lay down. I'll tell you this. I like Texas Tech. I don't want to lay down. You could probably count the number of times in one hand in the last decade that I've laid double digits with a team on the road in college football. As a matter of fact, you might still have 5 fingers if you wanted to count that. But what do you think? Texas Tech, how's their future looking in the Big 12? I have them power rated by far as the best team in this conference. So talk to me about this one.
I agree. I think they're the better team in this game. But this line's gotten away from you a bit. I saw it open 10, even an 8.5, maybe a look-ahead line at some point. It's now 11.5. And I actually, my simulation has Texas Tech by just 8.5. I do think the home field is worth something here with a team that's off to a 4-0 start, as you mentioned, with Houston. Unranked, I believe, still. If they pull the upset here, they will definitely be ranked next week, getting some additional votes. Texas Tech probably wins this one, but I think you've missed the number at this point at 11.5. And it does, even though it's an in-state game, looks like a tough spot here, and a game that could stay a little bit closer than expected. I'm not sure Houston could pull the outright win, but I do think the line's inflated. I would lean towards the dog here. One thing about Texas Tech, very good offensive team on the season, 52 points a game, 10.5 yards per play, 7.5 yards per play, 10 yards per pass. Every time they throw the ball, they're getting a first down on average. And this Houston pass defense has been fantastic, 4.9 allowed against opponents that average just 6.7. So, yes, the Houston defense has been really strong, but they have not faced any offense like this Texas Tech attack.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, that was one of the reasons I like the over 6.5, Ralph, preseason, is this Houston's defense. We could question who they faced so far, but going back to last year, it's been a good defense for Willie Fritz. And this is an interesting matchup here. Adam brought up a good point in our chat here. Houston got a little lucky last week. They laid an egg early. They went on the road. It was a Friday night game in Corvallis against a winless Oregon State team. They dug themselves an early hole. The Cougars were able to climb out and win the game. But what do you think here with Houston hosting Texas Tech in a Big 12 matchup?
Power ratings right now, the best team in the Big 12, I have them at an 84 with TCU a 78. I have them 6 points better than TCU, so completely agree with you. This is another game you have to take with a grain of salt, just because of the strengths of schedules. Sorry, I should have had this pulled up. My secretary's sleeping or something. I talked about Maryland being like 196. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech is number 217. That means 80 FCS teams have played better schedules than Texas Tech. That's why they're number 2 in the country, plus 334 yards per game. They're number 1 in the country at plus 405 yards per play. And Houston, obviously, not a good schedule either. They're like 100, but again, far better than Texas Tech. I really don't have an opinion here. I would lean the under because both teams are playing the toughest defenses they faced. I actually would have said Utah's a better defense than Houston, but so far this year, the most surprised I've been through 5 weeks or 6 weeks, wherever we are, was the way Texas Tech manhandled Utah on the road on both sides of the ball. I mean, rushing for 4.7 and 173, holding them to 3.3. Folks, this is not the air raid Texas Tech team we're used to. Joey McGuire has done a fantastic job. I think they spent, $26 million. So yeah, money can buy you. This isn't the New York Mets guys that have that type of bankroll. I think they were number 2 in the NIL this year. They've got some big oil alums and they've taken advantage of it. So lean under, no real opinion on the side for me.
Okay, there you go. Hopefully that helps you guys out. Here's more help is being asked for, guys, as we have an interesting line. Cincinnati hosting Iowa State. Iowa State is the 14th ranked team in the country, but they are a slight underdog to unranked Cincinnati. This would be the second instance this season of an unranked team being favored over a top 25 opponent. The first was last week, Arizona State. Things did not look early for them, but they came back and did defeat a ranked TCU team. It depends what number, whether or not they covered for you or not. It's depending when you bet the game. If you were lucky enough to get Arizona State -2.5, you covered because, of course, they won by 3. Some of you may have pushed, but it's always been, Steve, kind of a thing where people look for these spots. Unranked teams, when the odds makers are telling you something when they got an unranked team favored over a top 25 opponent. And Iowa State, in case if you guys missed the news, both of their starting cornerbacks are out now. They both are injured, and that is going to be a big loss against a Cincinnati team that put up 600 yards of offense last week.
And they were both all Big 12 last year, Brian.
Yes,
I mean, you can lose your starting quarterbacks. That's one thing. Losing multi-year starting quarterbacks that are all conference puts it at a whole different level.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The line did not move. I don't know if people, a lot of bettors haven't that hasn't filtered down to them or not. But Cincinnati, Steve, put up 600 yards of offense, and this was one of the craziest. I always go through the recaps and the box scores every week, like I know you guys do. One of the craziest things I found last week in college football, Cincinnati, not only did they go to Kansas and pull the outright upset with 600 yards total offense, they had 4 touchdowns called back because of penalties. So they could have scored even more. I don't know what it says for the discipline of this Bearcats team, but I think we can see why they're maybe favored here against Iowa State at home.
Yeah, you can't fix bad offense. This is something between coaching and handicapping now for decades that I've come to realize is defense a lot of times is talent, but it's also intensity, it's mindset. You can't all of a sudden just fix a bad offensive team. So my point is when you have an explosive offense, it always catches my eye. Yes, you might lose in shootouts, but I'll tell you a team that's similar is Virginia, not my Virginia Cavaliers. They played my William & Mary Tribe a few weeks ago. I turned the game on the radio mid-third quarter. It was 52-7. Virginia had 625 yards. They were 40 away from the all-time school record in the middle of the third quarter. Went on to gain 700 yards, put up over 600 and some against Stanford. And as we saw last Friday night, the Cavaliers are actually for real because they moved against Florida State also. So I'm not going to discount Cincinnati no matter who you're playing. When you're putting up 600-plus yards of offense, even against Sisters of the Poor, you can move the ball. And now you've got an Iowa State team that's not going to be at full strength. That could be a problem. I'm not sure they can keep up in this game. And I think this is a situation where Cincinnati's offense is better. Yes, Iowa State has the better defense. But something else, guys, I'm starting to feel in college football in recent years is that better offenses beat better defenses. We see that in the playoffs. The championship games are often high scoring. And I make this game about Cincinnati by 1 on my simulation. With the injuries, it's a little tricky, but it'd be Bearcats or pass for me. I think they're going to explode offensively in this one.
Ralph, what do you think?
I actually agree quite a bit with Steve. I'm just going to come to a little different result. Campbell's been a good dog in this price range, an excellent dog. But I look at Cincinnati. You guys had talked about the offense and what they've done. They're number 3 in the country, averaging 8.1 yards per play. You look at Iowa State, and I think you said this last week, Brian, and we agreed. I mean, if you want to take one team that doesn't deserve to be ranked, being where they are, I mean, that's it. Their entire stat profile is based on the 55-7 win against South Dakota. You play Kansas State, you get outgained by 70 yards. You play Iowa, you only have 230 yards of offense, but you win the turnover battle. Arkansas State, you only have 452 yards against Arkansas State, and then Arizona, you have 399 yards. So to me, you look at the stat profile, their averages on offense, number 75, their averages on defense, number 61. Since he does score, can Iowa State keep it close with Rocco Becht? I am not so sure, but I think the way I would go on this is Cincinnati over 26.5 team total.
Oh, I like that look. I like that look. I will say this, I'll own it. We always own our losses here on the program. I was on Arizona last week against Iowa State, and that was not a good call in retrospect. But I will say this, all of you, I joked earlier at the top of the program about sending Steve his NIL check. Well, I'll send all of you watching your CLV trophy, because I gave that play out at Arizona plus 6.5, and I don't know if you guys saw this. On Saturday, all the money came in on Arizona. They closed plus 3.5. You got 3 points of club. Now, the bet lost, so, I mean, all we could do is shine a trophy and then reminisce. But still, people were betting heavily against this Iowa State team last week, and the fact that happened, now they're a dog to a top 25 or an unranked opponent, I think speaks volumes about what's going on in Ames. Good friend of mine watching the show, Clint. He might be the person that I bet on Texas Tech with. He and I may have some money invested in Texas Tech. He brings up another game, and this is an interesting situation because normally we see these when we see these unranked teams favored over a top 25 opponent, it's by 3 or less, Steve, right? It's not huge. I mean, just the fact that they're favored is noteworthy. Well, do I have a story to tell about the Virginia Cavaliers who have climbed in to the top 25 after that thrilling victory over Florida State? Virginia's number 24 in the country. They're getting 7 this week at Louisville. We usually do not. I agree with Coach. We don't see unranked teams favored by more than a field goal. But he likes Louisville still. I don't know if do we. I know that sometimes those money parlays can come back to bite you, but I almost think Louisville might be a moneyline parlay piece in this. Is the way I was thinking at it, because it is a heavy number to lay with the Cardinals here, especially since they were down big early to Pitt last week.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to contradict myself in this one. I always say that letdowns happen more after tough losses than big wins. Well, this might be the exception to the rule. I'd be very careful with Virginia this week. Okay. Let's see if Ralph's database can test this. When 5,000 fans storm rush the field and stomple like 30 of their classmates, what's the result the following? I mean, that was like a bowl unflowing. Yes. And the funny thing is that the play had barely ended. I mean, the play had barely ended. I mean, it would have been a mess if they had to call everyone back. It would have been like Stanford Twine's 20. But this looks like a tough scheduling spot. And as you know, overtime results, teams off of losses in overtime, I think, are worse. But just off an overtime game in general, you got to be very careful in college football because it just uses so much emotion and energy. And that win was as big as they've had in decades. With that said, they could still cover and not win this game, but I actually project Louisville by 8, and that is not really factoring in the emotional letdown angle. And I still think there's a little bit of line value. And the line is currently 6.5, minus 15 in some spots. If you like Louisville, I would lay it now. If you like Virginia, maybe you catch a +7. It's a 3:30 Eastern kickoff Saturday. But I would lay it with Louisville minus 6.5. And Brian, meant to mention this earlier, I love these top 25 angles. Shoot me the notes. I will give you a shout out every week in the video, just like I do with Ralph when he sends me good stuff. You put me onto the college basketball a couple of years ago. I talked a lot about the unranked favorites. I do that college basketball top 25 video in the spring. But I think it makes a lot of sense as well. And it also goes towards my Fade the Public video a little bit, which I love to fade public underdogs. And I think whenever you're getting a ranked team as an underdog against a non-ranked team, it's by default probably a public dog as well. So that's why it works.
Absolutely. All right, Ralph, what do you think? Bigger number than usual with the unranked team against a top 25 foe. I guess the odds makers are really telling what they think of Virginia's top 25 ranking here. They don't really concur that the Who's should be in the top 25.
Well, their offense should be. It's, I'm looking. I'm having some trouble. I was trying to look at what unranked things are. I'll have that for next week. But you look at Louisville, and 51-17 win Eastern Kentucky, 28-14 win against James Madison. Now, James Madison has a great defense, so them only scoring 264 yards is a bit of a concern at home, but we've seen how good the Dukes have been after that. Bowling Green, they did what they had to in last week against Pittsburgh. It was very misleading to me because they were plus 4 turnovers, and we talked about any college football team that's plus 4 turnovers, you're going to win 95% of the time and maybe even more than that. I was on the over last week for Virginia and Florida State, and 440 yards. You got outgained by 514 yards, but they did what they had to do, running the ball for over 211, and they pressured enough. They had 5 sacks against Stanford and 2 sacks against Florida. Louisville, number 34 and number 26 on offense, what they average, and defense holding their foes. Virginia, number 13 and number 53. Last week against Pittsburgh, Louisville ran 84 plays. Last week against Florida State, Virginia ran 84 plays. Tell you what, give me the over.
All right, there we go. The over is Ralph's look there, guys. Yes, people are asking. I'm sure you're going to get to Miami of Florida State, and the answer is absolutely yes. That will be coming up in just a minute. But first, Steve mentioned just a few moments ago about he referenced that tremendous field storming by the Virginia fans after the upset of Florida State. Now, those Virginia fans, they're able, correct me if I'm wrong here, Steve, they're standing on the grass. That's what made it such a quick access.
Yeah,
to the
it's
field,
like
right?
a hill. There's like,
Yes.
I don't think there's even there is no fan. I mean, it's literally a hill. And that's what happens when you allow people to watch a top 25 national TV game on a hill, I guess, that's going to happen.
I'll tell you what, I don't think there's ever been a top 25 game you could watch on this hill, but you know where else you can watch football on a hill in college football? The corner of Route 682 and Richland Avenue, Peden Stadium in beautiful Athens, Ohio, my alma mater, Ohio University. And Adam wants to know, the line here seems a little short with Ohio and Ball State. I'll take this one, being that it's my alma mater. I would not bet OU in this game, Adam. I wouldn't. Ball State is off a bot. Now, there is a problem. Now, I would just pass on the game now, because the issue with betting against OU in this game is that you would be forced to put your hard-earned dollars on Ball State. And Ball State is very, very bad. But OU, look, the market did not like OU last week. They bet, people were betting Bowling Green like they knew the final score. Bobcats got the win and cover, okay, but the defense is banged up. Ball State, like I mentioned, rested off a bye. Ohio, last 2 years, guys, I'll admit it, the alma mater's been better than I expected. But I don't know if I want to lay double digits in this spot, even though Ball State, Ralph, is absolutely putrid. So this would be a pass for me.
Brian, I did get that info from the database. Just so let's quantify, keep talking about when we talk about situations. Well, guys, since 2016, unranked favorites against ranked opponents, like 2 games we just talked about, Louisville and then Cincinnati, Iowa State, 56-3, 50% against the spread.
Okay.
Unranked favorites of 3 or more, 38-36, 51.4. So those unranked teams that are favorites are even money or just slightly above the Mendoza line as a favorite of a field goal or more.
Okay, there we go there. Let's go to Miami and Florida State. This is another game at the outset of the show, guys. I brought up lower-ranked teams in top 25 matchups have been getting the job done. 13-2 against the spread, 12-3 straight up. That trend would favor Florida State this week. Florida State off the loss to Virginia, obviously, that we just mentioned. They are hosting a Miami team that has looked as good as anybody in the country. They are rested, Canes. I'll be honest with you. My power ratings, I made this line closer pick 'em. I'm probably going to be on Florida State. I'll let you guys know that right now. I'm interested to hear what these guys have to say. I just think, what would this number, what would it have been if Florida State hadn't lost to Virginia, Steve? I don't think we would have been getting over a field goal with the Noles. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to check right now. One thing I love about the odds logic odd screen is that you can click on the history of the sports books. I'm going to click on DraftKings right now as we're doing this live and see if I can see a line, because you don't find a lot of look-aheads in college football, but, DraftKings is one that often does it. Now, the opener it's saying was 6. That was on September 28th, which would have been, Sunday? So,
yes.
Yeah, the line opened 6 at DraftKings. Is down to 4.5. I favor Miami by about 2 in this one. So I do like Florida State. My concern is what we've talked about here, is that this could be a possible letdown spot. And I know it's a huge rival game. I do like the fact they're at home, though. I will point that out. Is I think a letdown is a little less likely when you're in front of your home fans, raucous arena, whether it's basketball or a big field advantage. And this is 7:30 Eastern Saturday night as well. So I think the home base, the home crowd will a little energy for Florida State. And I also like the fact they're an explosive offense. I talked about last year. They had that flop against Georgia Tech as a top 10 team in the opener. They scored 21. Well, they didn't do anything better than that all season. Take out their FCS game. I think it was like Charleston Southern or somebody. They scored 16 or less in their other 10 FBS games last year. And then they come out and they score 31 against Bama. I don't think they did it with the overtime, but it was pretty close. They will definitely do it this week. After this week, if they haven't already done it, I'd have to check. They will have more points scored than all of last year against all 11 FBS opponents. So this Florida State's a different breed this year. I like the Seminoles.
Okay, Ralph, this is Steve obviously mentioned that this is a big rivalry game. I will point out that the underdog, whichever team that has been, has had some success. Going back to 2005, underdog in this rivalry is 14-6 against the spread with 9 outright upsets. So that points to the Noles here, but they are coming off a loss against a rested Miami team that has looked great. What do you think here?
Steve, I'm just looking right now. Florida State last year, including the Charleston Southern game of 41-7, scored 185 points. They have 212 already after 4 games. So
unreal.
That sort of quantifies it. I'll tell you what, guys. You look and you're talking about offenses that are elite. Florida State is number 1, averaging 600 yards. Miami is number 29, averaging 451 yards. But again, a massive strength of schedule difference here. Miami 26, Florida State 111. Florida State also has been playing very fast, 73.3 plays per game. That's number 16. Miami, top 40 in plays per game. So we have good offenses. We have excellent offenses. We have fast tempo. So why in the heck would I be giving out the under? This is one of the matchups that teams are going to play much different than they've had being a conference game. Yes, Miami played Notre Dame, but again, remember, only 324 yards and 69 plays. And they beat Florida. They ran 76 plays. But now conference teams, in-state rivals that know each other better, you tend to play more conservatively, especially early. You don't want to lose the game by making a mistake. I feel you run the ball early. I actually lean under full game, and I'm going to give out first half under the total. So I expect these teams to get it going later. I think they start slow, feel each other out, and get off to a slow start.
Okay, slow start, says Ralph there down in Tallahassee. All right, guys, it is come to that time in the show where all three of us give out a best bet for the show. But we will also tell you, again, we're just going to remind you what we've got going on this weekend here at wagertalk.com. Again, I have a 5% max bet locked and loaded for Saturday in college football. The last time I had a 5% max bet was week 2 of the NFL when the Atlanta Falcons, a 3.5-point underdog, took care of business against the Minnesota Vikings in a 22-6 outright win. For my free play here on the show today, I'm going to give you an underdog, Cal, +3 versus Duke. Why do we like Cal here? Well, this is another one of those cross-country trips, guys, that Duke is having to make. I really dislike this spot for the Blue Devils. Going on the road, late night kickoff. We talked about West Coast teams. We don't like it when they start early. Well, I don't like when East Coast teams have to start late. This game kicks off at 10:30 p.m. Eastern with conference expansion. There's been a lot of focus, rightly so, on teams making these cross-country trips and not faring well. Now, last week, Cal, interestingly enough, did go to BC across the country and win outright as a 6.5-point underdog, 28-24. But something we talked about earlier in the show, that was a 3:30 Eastern kickoff. So I don't think the start time wasn't an issue for the Bears. It was a nice bounce back after the terrible loss they suffered on the road 2 weeks ago as 2 touchdown favorites at San Diego State. Last time here at Berkeley, what did Cal do? They beat another team that had to come west. That was Minnesota. Bears won that one 27-14 as 3-point underdogs. Love the freshman quarterback for Cal, JKS. He's the reason the team's been better than expected. This was a team under Justin Wilcox that was projected to finish near the bottom of the ACC. Now, I think they're more middle of the pack. As for Duke, not only are they flying across the country for a late kickoff, but this is really key. This really stuck out to me. This, guys, is Duke's 5th consecutive game where the line is 4 points or less. So they've had a lot of competitive matchups in a row with no bye in between. I had them at home in a must-win spot 2 weeks ago versus NC State. That was a 3% Clyde play. Last week, Duke won that one. They won last week as well, taking advantage of a Syracuse team that had previously lost its starting quarterback to a season-ending injury. I just wonder what the Blue Devils have left in the tank, guys. This is a team I expected to take a step back in 2025. Yes, Manny Diaz's team did go 5-3 straight up in ACC play last season, but they were only favored in 3 of those games and outgained by an average of 55 yards per game, did benefit from a +5 turnover margin. So if Cal takes care of the football here, I believe the Bears pull the late night upset in the old Drew Martin late night degenerate special spot. So I'm riding with Cal +3. Don't forget about that 5% max bet I've got it currently available for sale. WT.buzz/BP and the Weekend Warrior Pass for just $14 extra. You get the complete card as well. Steve Merril, thank you for joining us here on the program this week. It is now the floor is now yours, sir, to give us a free play and talk about and remind us what you've got going for the weekend.
I always appreciate being the floor being handed to me from the senator from Ohio, and I'll also thank Bryan and Ralph for allowing me to join them. I hope Ross feels better. I wish it was better under better circumstances, but always great to be here, guys. It's a great show. We covered a lot of games, and don't forget, I cover even more games with free play videos right here every week in college football, Wager Talk TV. Also, my college football top 25 video, deep dive into the biggest games this weekend, will be available later this evening on Thursday, and then right around the corner, my NFL Fade the Public video. By the way, I do have the Thursday night college and pro football games up free in videos right now on the channel. And if you're joining us a little bit later on the replay, I've got your Sunday morning Vikings-Browns. The game is so great we had to export it overseas, but I do think there's a betting edge in that game, Minnesota-Cleveland, and then a ton more NFL videos, including my Fade the Public video, will be ready for this weekend as well. So, hey, when you subscribe, because I know you've already done it, over 221,000 subscribers, can't be wrong, click the bell as well for an instant alert so you know when these shows go live and also when the free play videos are loaded each day here on Wager Talk TV. Thumbs up, like, and comment below because we read the comments and we reply back. Best bets on my page, Steve Merril, wagertalk.com, including a daily free play. Check out the bonus free play right now on my page and get there quicker, WT.buzz/SM. Free play for the show here. We touched on this game earlier with the under between Navy and Air Force. I do like under 52, but I like the side as well in this one, Navy -12. Now, it's a little bit of a hedge. If the game does not stay under as it normally does, then it's going to help us with the favorite. If it stays under, maybe we don't get the favorite, but I think we could win both. And I like Navy -12 because they're the better offense, they're the better defense, and the matchup favors, and they're also at home in this one. Early kickoff, by the way, noon Eastern, which is probably 10 a.m. for the Flyboys. I'm sure they travel well. And normally we don't look to fade military teams as a dog or option teams as a dog because they often keep the game close, but I don't think that's going to be the case in this one. The reason this total is in the 50s for a Service Academy game is because Air Force defense is really bad. Now, giving up 10 yards per pass is terrible. I'm not sure Navy will exploit that, but what does stand out to me is Air Force has given up over 5 yards per carry, and that's a problem because Navy allows just 3 yards per rush, and both teams are going to run the ball about 80-90% of their plays in this game. Huge rush defensive edge for Navy. They're the better team on both sides of the ball. And yes, it's a rival game, but that also means they have motivation to win by double digit and extend the lead whenever possible. If you're going to play the side, lay it with Navy -12. That's at noon Eastern on CBS, national TV game Saturday.
All right. Steve says to lay it with the midshipmen there in our first Commander-in-Chief game of the year. Ralph, you're going to tell the people to lay it as well. We leave no stone unturned here on the Blitz. Picked an interesting matchup here as a James Madison side that is a perfect 4-for-4 against the number takes on a Georgia State team that is, well, the complete opposite, 0-4 against the number. So talk about this matchup in the Sun Belt and what you've got going on this weekend at wagertalk.com.
Steve, only the third double-digit line for a Commander-in-Chief game.
Wow.
Army, remember last week, late 18.5, they only won 20-3 last year. And then 2013, Navy laid 13 to Air Force and did cover 28-10. So that goes all the way back to 2005, I think. So, Brian, you had said you don't lay double digits on the road in college football.
I struggle to.
I am laying 20 points on the road, and I actually think there's advantage, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Number one, let's remember this. Most college teams, I remember Nebraska used to have like 130 players. Oklahoma used to, you're allowed to have an unlimited number of players now at home. So if you have a big lead, what happens? You start bringing in the second string, the third string, the fourth string, sometimes even the fifth string. But when you travel, you are restricted. Some conferences are 70, some conferences are 75. That means you basically only have 3 strings playing on the road. And then number two, when you're an offense like James Madison that runs the ball, they have run the ball 186 times, passed the ball only 105 times. And by the way, they're averaging 249 yards per game rushing, 5.4 yards per carry, facing a team that's allowing 227 yards per game and 5.6 yards per carry. Why is that important? Well, when you have an air raid offense and you have a big lead and you want to slow down the game, you are completely out of sync running the ball. Your offensive linemen only know how to pass block. You're into weird offenses. People don't know the plays. But if you're a James Madison team that's going to run the ball every time, it doesn't matter if you're the first string, doesn't matter if you're the second string, doesn't matter if you're the third string, you're going to run the exact same offense regardless of who's in there or how big the lead is. That's big when you could start breaking those rush attacks like that. Plus, James Madison plays at tempo. They're top 25 in plays per game. Add it up. I am not afraid to lay 20 points at Georgia State, who allowed Mississippi 63 points, who allowed Vanderbilt 635 yards and 70 points, and an offense averaging 275 yards against FBS foes. James Madison, folks, is an actual client play for me. So take advantage. Remember, no weekend warrior for me. Get the 3-day all access. I have a Friday college football 5%, 9-1 on those. Number 2 in college football the last 2 years. Number 2 in college football and NFL combined.
All right, James Madison. He was the 4th president of the United States of America, and he is Ralph Michaels' best bet on the program this week. There you see it, the Blitz. Our best bets here, Steve Merril. He's laying it with Navy against Air Force. A rare opportunity to lay double digits in the Commander-in-Chief game. Steve says do it. Ralph, he just told you why he likes JMU minus 20 against Georgia State. And I, in the late night game, will take the 3 with Cal against Duke. We did forget, at least earlier in the show, but I have not forgotten now. There is a game tonight that you guys asked about with Sam Houston State, New Mexico. We'll just hit that really quick before we sign off here. Sam Houston, 0-4 straight up. 0-4 gets the spread this year. They're a favorite on the road. That should tell you about the quality of New Mexico State, who is number 118 in yards per play margin, despite playing the weaker schedule. For me, what's the money line price on Sam Houston State here? Because that's what I would do. You can, there's 2.5s out there. There's still some 1.5s if you shop around. So let's see. Minus 120. Minus 120 at FanDuel, minus 125 at DraftKings. I'd play. I don't know if you guys have anything before we sign off, but I would play Sam Houston State minus 120.
Just something small, Brian, that you said. Strength of schedule: Sam Houston number 14, New Mexico State number 160. Enough said. And basically, their yards per game are even at those numbers. They're number 128 and 134. So if you're number 134 against the 14th schedule, that's why you're 0-4 in favorite, because New Mexico State is number 128 versus the number 160 schedule. I think the line should be higher, to be honest with you.
Bearcats with a K. Remember that. It is Bearcats with a K in Sam Houston State. And that Aggie for New Mexico State, he looks like an angry individual. I wouldn't want to cross him. All right, Steve, if you have anything else, thank you for joining us. I don't know if you have anything on tonight's game.
I'll tell you what, so we can run. I've got a full 5-6 minute video on this game with a free play on the total. So it's free. Don't cost nothing right here on Wager Talk TV. Check it out. Free play in this game for Thursday night, along with the NFL game between the Rams and 49ers. So I'll leave it for people to watch the video afterwards.
Awesome. All right, check that out, guys. Check out the new edition of the Power 5 as well that dropped this morning. I talk about all the interesting line moves that have already transpired in college football and the NFL, and I, too, talk about the Thursday night NFL game as well. All right, for Ralph Michaels, for Steve Merril, I am Bryan Power. This was another edition of The Blitz. Until next time, let's cash some tickets.